What's going on, guys? This is going to be a little bit different, a little bit of a ramble. Some might call it a drama video. There is no clipboard. The clipboard has, the clipboard's ready for tomorrow's Monday Night Raw review, to be perfectly honest with you. Two things. This video was supposed to happen, like, last week, but I've been consumed by drama in the YWC, and the people causing me that drama are not worthy of mention, but suffice it to say I deserve to die because I happen to talk to Bone Duster every now and then on Skype. For that matter, free plug for my buddy Bone Duster. Marcus the Bone Duster warns, if you don't know him, you should know him. He's a funny fucker, and, I like him. Apparently that makes me a bad person, so if you go check him out and you like him, you can be a bad person too. We can all be bad people together. Oh yes, love the politics in the YWC. But anyways, that kept me from doing this video. Now you guys, some people, at the end of videos, especially when I do topical shit and pop up and do random shit, it's like, well, where do you come up with a topic like that? And there's one of two ways that I can really come up with a topic. The one way, obviously, is if I'm watching a show and something sticks in the back of my head and it's like, I'm going to make a video out of that. That's the obvious way. The other way is if I pop onto Twitter, or pop onto Facebook, or pop onto YouTube for that matter. Check out my friends here in the YWC, those of them that still are my friends, and more recently, hop onto iTunes to various wrestling podcasts, etc. You guys know, first and foremost, I'm a big pusher of a podcast called Aftermath. That's put out by the Score Television here in Canada, and it's available as a podcast. It's an absolutely phenomenal podcast. We talked to this guy named Arda Ocal, and his co-host is Jimmy Corderas, who used to be a great referee for the WWE back in the day, and that's an amazing podcast. Their podcast is not the podcast that I am talking about today, oh no. And because of a moral decision on my part, I'm not going to tell you whose podcast I'm talking about, because I want to tell you guys something, and I want to, much as I hate to admit it, I'm just going to pull a little bit of a John Cena and rise above, sort of negative name dropping. It's, small minds insult people, large minds discuss ideas. And it's the idea that I want to talk about in this video. Now, these guys that I'm not going to name, were saying this and that about who's making the most contributions in the WWE. And they got to Brock Lesnar and The Rock and completely undersold both of them to ridiculous levels while selling, guys like Damian Sandow, I think is the guy's name, who's been cutting promos on SmackDown and hasn't even touched a ring yet, to guys like Dean Ambrose, who I've heard of, who's apparently from FCW, and is apparently pretty damn great. But, they're talking about who's contributing to the current the popularity of the current product in WWE. These guys are either not, or just barely becoming the product of WWE. They are still FCW talent. And, clarification, not putting them down, it's just a point of reference. Now, they were putting down this and that, and they were putting over all their indie guys that they love and whatever. And these are the same guys that put me down for boosting, CM Punk and people like that, because I should be cheering for John Cena because John Cena makes the money. Well, Damian Sandow hasn't touched a ring yet. He ain't making any money yet. Dean Ambrose hasn't even seen WWE television yet, unless you're in a place in the States that gets FCW. We don't get it up here. So he hasn't touched WWE TV. He hasn't made the company any money yet, unless there's, like, ticket prices for the FCW shows that are, like $5 a person, or they pay you to show up, or whatever. Not the point. The point was, what really brought it home was them making this ridiculous car metaphor. Oh, we're going to treat the WWE like an automobile. Brock Lesnar and The Rock aren't the engine of the WWE. They're not even the gears or the cogs. They're not even the gas, and they're not even the paint job. They're a little trinket that you hang off the rearview mirror. And it's like that, at that point, like I said, this is a podcast that was over a week old now. But at that point, I'm like, no, you guys that shove John Cena down my throat because he makes money for the WWE, I gotta step up and say a little something. And yes, it's because I'm a mark for The Rock. I'm not even that big a fan of Brock Lesnar, if I'm brutally honest, other than the fact that he's put John Cena on his face in the past couple of weeks, and that makes me a happy boy. I'm biased. Unlike some people in the YWC, I will admit that I am biased. But let's look at this objectively, because that's what I'm going to try and do in this video. let's look at the things that they've done differently. First, The Rock. WrestleMania, 78,363 in attendance. An estimated, and it's only an estimate, mind you, but an estimated 1.9 million pay-per-view buys. Now, that doesn't include people that went to other large stadiums just to watch WrestleMania on the Tron. That doesn't include people that do the thing here in the States and Canada where you can actually go and watch the pay-per-view in the theaters, etc. That's a fuckload of people, and fuck you if you're gonna give that credit to John Cena. Oh my lord. Some of you out there, and you guys in particular, I know John Cena is your fantasy butt buddy, but he did not put a damn ass in that seat compared, excuse me guys, compared to The Rock. Now, let's look at that a little bit further. Why did that happen? The Rock had an amazing, stellar career before he became an actor. He brought everybody that ever laid eyes on him when he was a full-time wrestler back to WrestleMania. He also, even for people that weren't fans of him in general, but were fans of the Attitude Era and loved what he represented, what he came back representing, the Attitude Era fans, you know, when it wasn't like Wrestling Jesus said, you know, everybody now looks like they come out of the cookie cutter jobber factory, and back then they didn't. He came in representing that, so people loved the Attitude Era. He brought the Attitude Era fans. He brought the Hollywood eyes to the product, and you know, people might want to downplay that, but there was, I'm willing to bet, you know, at least twice as many cameras, at least twice as many, you know, reporters from different mediums of media there because The Rock was involved. You know, you got your Entertainment Tonights and your ET Canadas and your Extra, and, you know, they were there to cover Maria Menounos too, but nobody gives a shit about that. Brought a lot of eyes, and for those people that say that The Rock, because he's from the Attitude Era, does not address at all the WWE's young, current, you know, target audience. Half The Rock's movies are kids' movies. Kids know who The Rock is. If they're wrestling fans, they talk to other wrestling fans who at least know who The Rock is, and or / they've seen him in a movie or whatever. So even if they were detached enough to not know that The Rock was a wrestler before, they were coming to say, hey, I've seen that guy, he was the Tooth Fairy, or he was, you know, this or that or the next thing. And you know what, that's a kind of a bad reference to want to see him in a wrestling match in, but it still brought fuckloads of eyes to WrestleMania, and fuckloads of eyes to, you know, the Monday Night Raw the next night. That is, you know, that is what's driving your product. That is, you don't have a product without an audience. It's not even a money thing. You know, get your eyes off the money for a second, because yes, John Cena sells more merch because they make more John Cena merch. It's not even a money thing. It's literally how many people are in the crowd. Right now, if I go to a show, it's a John Cena crowd, so it's a bunch of kids and it's a bunch of adults that brought them there. So yeah, the arena's full, but only half the people there give a fuck. Rock is there, everybody gives a fuck. Whether you like him or not is another story. Whether you liked him back then, whether you remember him being a great heel back then, and you remember booing him back then, so you want to boo him again now. He brought tremendous, tremendous eyes to the product. Now, let's switch over to Brock Lesnar. Like I say, I was never a huge Brock Lesnar fan. Like, he was never, he would be like Daniel Bryan is now. I respect what Daniel Bryan can do in the ring. I respect, you know, the little bit of character work that he, you know, tries to do and whatever, but he wasn't who I was tuning in to see. I definitely respect the fuck of what he's trying to do. A guy 300 pounds pulling a shooting star press on Kurt Angle at WrestleMania a couple years ago, you gotta respect what the guy can do. Now, here's what I say, and I've said it before in other collaborations, and I will say it to you guys right now. There is a very particular reason why I not so much like Brock Lesnar, but like the fact that Brock Lesnar has come back. And no, it's not because he put John Cena on his face. That's definitely part of it. But there's a deeper thing. For me personally, you don't have to agree with this, but just go with me for a second. The main argument between any MMA fan and any WWE fan, or any, you know, quote-unquote legitimate sport and quote-unquote, you know, WWE fan. Oh, well, it's fake. They're a bunch of fakers. They can't do any fucking real sports. So Brock Lesnar, if we as wrestling fans want to adopt him for a second, dominated WWE, became the youngest WWE champion ever, had some fantastic matches with The Rock, with Eddie Guerrero, with Kurt Angle, etc. John Cena even. He had great matches with John Cena back when John Cena could actually put on a good match. Go back and look, because I did, and they are good on both ends of the ring. But what did he do? He dipped from WWE, and that made everybody mad. But while everybody was getting mad at him, he was doing a big favor for us wrestling fans. Think about it. Think about it for a second. He dipped from WWE, did some other shit, I don't know what he did, but eventually wound up at UFC. Went to UFC, won their championship. I don't know the circumstances around it. I don't watch UFC. You couldn't pay me to watch UFC. I will be bluntly honest, but I know enough to know that a former WWE wrestler by the name of Brock Lesnar was the UFC champion at one point. Now, he came back to the WWE as sort of a homecoming. No, he's not full-time. Of course he's not going to be full-time. He's still dealing with the injuries and illnesses and whatever that, you know, made his MMA career so short. So we are lucky to have him back at all, whether you want to admit that or not. You fuckers. You're all the same people that were happy that Orton got injured. I guarantee it. But he went from, you know, wrestling, which is so fake and which gets labeled as, you know, fake bullshit by the MMA fans, hopped to their side of the fence, dominated their side of the fence, you know, I guess you could say on our behalf, and came back to wrestling. That's a victory for us, guys. You don't realize that, do you? It's the same as, I don't even know. Kurt Angle has already had one Olympic run. If anybody says that wrestling is fake and wrestlers can't do fuck all, I say look at Kurt Angle. He might have done it before he came to the WWE, but this is a fucking American gold medalist in our roster, where he's in TNA, but he's still a part of pro wrestling. Mark Henry, even though everybody seems to keep forgetting about it, is a Olympic gold medalist. Alberto Del Rio, I don't claim to know the specifics. I will never claim to know the specifics because I don't care that much. But apparently he was a big thing in Mexico doing MMA before he came to the WWE. You don't have to like these guys, but you have to respect the fact that when it comes to a WWE fan, MMA fan, or a WWE fan, real sports fan conversation, these guys help us out in every single one of those conversations. Now, not only that, Brock Lesnar had a hell of a run for only being here a couple years in the Attitude Era. And he wrecked shop. And there's a lot of people, a lot of older fans that want that hardcore, hard-nosed, you know, no rules, wreck shop kind of shit. And that's why they got behind Brock Lesnar back in the day, and that's why they're excited he's back. And you know what? Whether you like to admit it, whether WWE fans liked him going to UFC, or whether UFC fans like him coming back to the WWE now, he's bringing a fuckload of MMA fan eyeballs to our product. A lot of other legitimate sport, you know, reporters, legitimate sport coverage type attention to our sport. Guys, take some ownership of our sport and see the good that this does for us. Not to mention the fact that he is somehow able to use his MMA tenure to boost his heel character in the WWE. That is phenomenal. Because no matter who he goes in the ring with, he could go in the ring with the Big Show or Ryback or, you know, Mark Henry, who's supposed to be, you know, Mark Henry's the biggest devastation machine WWE has right now if he manages to stay not injured. But if you've got Mark Henry in a match with a guy like Brock Lesnar, yes, we all realize that wrestling is scripted, but you know in the back of your head, Mark Henry's going up against a guy that in real life has hurt people. There's legitimacy there. There's legitimacy with Kurt Angle. Guys like Kurt Angle, even though, you know, his second run at going to the Olympics was cut short, and that's incredibly sad. For him, for wrestling, for pro wrestling, for everybody, that's sad. You know, you've got a guy like Alberto Del Rio. Everybody wants to shit on Alberto Del Rio, but he has gone and wrecked shop for real. Same thing with Mark Henry. These guys help us be proud of our product. Now, that's... if I can get off of that for a minute, that is how these guys have helped the product separately in the past couple of months. How have they helped the product together? What is the story of WWE right now? Who carries the load in the WWE? No, wait. All you Cena fans, hold on a second. I mean, who actually carries the load? Who are we actually tuning in to see? Who is the actual total package? That would be CM Punk. Oh yes, because if you line up good characters over here and main event guys or people that WWE has left in the main event over here and legitimate great wrestlers down the center, there's only one guy that gets onto all three lists, and that is CM Punk. Oh, yes. If it just took being a legitimate wrestler, Daniel Bryan would still be champion, wouldn't he? Oh, yes. So CM Punk is the main event guy that is a legitimate wrestler, that has the total package, etc., etc., etc. He is, as far as a wrestling fan, he is the most drawing element, at least on Raw, the A show, which is basically what you have to focus on when you talk about WWE. Now, flip that coin. Who gets the credit? Who gets the credit for all of it? Who goes out there and kayfabes and has WWE kayfabe and write that he's carrying the company on their shoulders? That would be Mr. John Cena. Now, if WWE and the wrestling fans in general are putting all their eggs in the Cena basket, and that's what you're doing, and that's fine, because unlike me, I will say to all of you right now, I don't care if you're a fan of John Cena, CM Punk, or Hornswoggle, you can be a fan of whoever you want. But if you are putting your eggs in the John Cena basket and you shit on The Rock and Brock Lesnar, you are counter-indicating yourself. Let me tell you why. All the guys that want to come down hard on Cena, like me, if you're like me and don't like John Cena, go back on this channel. You'll see the 2 Cenapocalypse videos and the video that I did with Angela, aka youtube.com/The Orton Storm. Go check her out. You will see all of my opinions and some of her opinions on John Cena. But if you're trying to deal, if you are a John Cena fan trying to deal with somebody like me, Brock Lesnar and The Rock are helping you out. You know why? Because number one beef that we have with John Cena is that he never loses. Rock took all the momentum of his hometown, his comeback, his return, his Attitude Era credit, his Hollywood credit, and his entire lineage, brought it to WrestleMania and proved to us that John Cena is in fact not Superman and can lose a match. And that's, oh, well, that's burying John Cena. No, it's making John Cena's next big victory even bigger. Think about it. It's making Cena more real so that the next time he goes for a big obstacle, he actually looks like there's an obstacle in front of him. His victory will be larger, because you know he's going to get a victory again. WrestleMania was a fluke. Now, turn it over to Brock Lesnar. What's the other thing that we don't like about John Cena? John Cena can't sell worth a damn, always pops up at the end of the match looking like fucking Superman. Brock Lesnar came out and with one handshake, or one faux handshake into an F5, put John Cena on his face. Very next week, not only had a big, massive, impressive pull-apart brawl with John Cena, but managed to bloody the pretty boy's face. He's not perfect. He's got chinks in his armor. His next match will be a challenge. And when he wins, when he does get handed the victory, all you Cena fans can be proud, because you have the illusion that he had some struggle to go through to get that victory handed to him. So, to you guys out there, and you know exactly who you are, who think that Brock Lesnar and The Rock are nothing but little baubles hanging on the rear view mirror of your non-existent automobile, no. No, no, no. I will admit, Brock Lesnar and The Rock are not the engine. They're not the gears. They're not the global positioning system. But as far as the success of WWE at the moment, they are definitely the performance fuel. Oh yes, and you can't deny it. And by the way, when it's all said and done, if you have any gray matter in your dense craniums, you will be thanking both of them. Before I go, I'm going to say once again, go check out Angela, The Orton Storm. Go check out Marcus Warren's, The Bone Duster. I'm not sure what his new screen name is because drama follows him like it follows me, but look up Marcus Warren's, you will find him. A couple other people that you need to check out. Wrestling Jesus, he's got a new channel every week, but you can find him somewhere. Mark R. Pearson has another channel. I think it's Mark Pearson TV. And then after that, I think it was the most recent one that he has currently created is the Mark R. Pearson again, but the O in Pearson is a 0. So go check him out. He's got a tremendous following, and apparently a lot of people aren't finding him, so go check him out. These guys are the guys you want to follow. The ones that focus on the wrestling. The ones that I've deemed unofficially part of the reality check. Oh, yes, not the ones that focus on picking at each other and causing stupid drama. Oh, yes. And I say it loud and I say it proud. I am Spaz, your YWC reality check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, keep this conversation going. Let me know what you think. I will talk to all of you guys later. I'm tagging out. Bye. And you're welcome.